Are you going to get the wine right this time?
Probably not.
Welcome, everyone, to Wine and Wisdom, Lauren and Tara. No.
Oh.
I just spilled wine all over myself.
First ever Wine and Wisdom unboxing. So, rosé mix.
Charged us like $50 for this. I thought it. Lauren's a lightweight, so she'll be drunk for sure. If we do it, what are you laughing at?
Look at your feet. Why do they look like that?
It's a Niagara wine. It's not that fancy.
Ting! Oh my God, you did it. You did it. You did it. She did it. She went there. Okay. Today we're talking about how to drop your money struggle story when you're just stuck in so much fear, so much worry, so much anxiety. We have been there, we get it, and we want to help you get out of it. It's not a fun place to be.
Worrying about money is a really stressful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, Tara, at the beginning of last month, you said you were in a money story about not having what you need, and like it was keeping you up at night.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I've never felt so sick and so anxious in my life. Like, it's just not fun. So we're going to give you some steps to get out of there and start making that money, honey. Let's dive in. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of tough love today, we decided.
Yeah.
But we also want to reiterate that it's coming from love, a loving place. Lauren is the queen of tough love. Sometimes she's a little bit too tough and not enough love.
No, never. Yeah, the tough is the love.
Yeah, but it is true. Sometimes we just really, in order to get out of our heads, we got to take some drastic measures. So why don't you start, Lauren?
Okay, so I know very well what it's like to struggle with money, and especially when you know about manifestation and you know that you need to think thoughts of abundance in order to attract abundance where money is concerned, and you just can't, even though you know that, you just can't get yourself out of it, right? And then you make yourself wrong for the fact that you can't get yourself out of it. But I know firsthand, being in that situation, I two and a half years ago, I was like $50,000 in debt. I had been really working hard on my business. I knew all about manifestation. I had it really work for me in the past. I was constantly reading books and applying different practices, and I could not break myself out of the struggle with money. And I remember never feeling more stressed in my entire life than that at that time. And there, a couple of months in particular. Yeah. And I remember how much of a struggle it was and what the emotional battle of it was. And I think that throughout my life, it's always been a story of just barely enough, but worrying about running out until quite recently, actually. And in fact, this month is the first time I've experienced I have so much more than enough. I've never actually, even though I've always had enough, or I've always had a little bit more than enough, I've never been oh my God, look at all the extra money in my account. Yeah. That's never happened until so it definitely takes something to heal these old stories, especially when it's so generational and it's so the world that we've grown up in, right? Yeah. And the reason that we wanted to do this video is just because we know that there are people who stay in the struggle for a lot longer than they would like. Sometimes it's entire lifetimes. Sometimes people who know about this work and know about manifestation, it can take a couple of years, and they're starting to get frustrated at that point. So we wanted to talk about how to shift not from lack into abundance, but instead lack into a place of neutrality around money first, because I think that you have to climb the vibrational scale with things in your life that you have so much momentum behind.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and me and Lauren were discussing this before we came on, and I was trying to like think about it in terms of like how I would relate it to my body, because I had such a long struggle with like food and eating disorder, and I was so in that story that if anyone tried to tell me anything differently, I was so quick to defend my story and why it's so hard for me and why I can't get better and blah 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 blah. So the first thing that we both agreed that like needs to happen is like you need to make a very strong decision and decide means like you're not waffling, you're not going back and forth, you're not doubting, you're not second guessing. Like you are making the decision that you're no longer, like this is what Lauren says, no longer available for this old story. And like you get to the point where you're so sick of your shit. You're like, this is something that actually happened to me. I realized like no one is coming to save me. Like no one is going to fix me from this eating disorder. Nobody is going to like teach me. Like of course there's lots of ways I could get help, but I was like, this is on me, and I'm either going to keep staying in this story and keep telling it again and again every single year, or I'm just going to be like, I'm so over myself. And I had to like make that decision and be so clear cut on it.
Yeah. Yes. And when you make a decision to no longer be available, it's like,
side note, you kind of look naked right now.
I look naked. I'm not, but
it's like very skin toned. But yeah, there we go.
That's okay. Actually, it's rosy colored.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, when you make that like what I call the no nonsense decision, it is like a commitment to a story other than the one that you have been living. And when you do this properly, you just don't go back to what was there before. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you never waver back into, you know, the old fear or worry or thought patterns. It's that you're like, no, I'm done with that now. That struggle that I've been perpetuating, and we don't want you guys to blame yourselves for it, because it's the world that we live in, and it's what we've inherited from people that have brought us up, or the society that we live in or whatever. So it's not your fault that you have whatever story you have around something like money, because it is so like learned, but it is your responsibility to say, this is not going to be my reality anymore. I'm fucking done with it. Yeah. Like that's it. And that's what I don't see people doing enough. And it can be said about anything, by the way. And it's not to say like, I definitely have areas in my life where I still haven't done this. Mm-hmm. But I do have lots of areas in my life where I got to the point where I was so sick of my shit. And I said, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. I'm done with, like, I mean, even in business, and I think Tara can say the same. I just never was a victim to my circumstance for very long. Even when I was really, really, really struggling and it really felt like nothing was happening for me, I was like, I don't care. Yeah. I'm going to keep going. I don't care how long it takes. And in the end, it didn't, relatively speaking, take all that long, but it was that level of conviction, which is the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So decide that is no longer how it's going to go. And then it is taking like full-on responsibility, which is very difficult when you've been in this story for so long. And there's a million reasons why we want to hold on to our old stories. And it is a bit of a security blanket. Like, I also think it can be powerful to look at, like, if this goes away, what am I afraid of? And like, for me, it was like, if I don't have bulimia or binge eating anymore, then I have no excuse. It's like really cutting in and out. Or is it okay on your end? I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. I was like, if I don't have binge eating or bulimia, then that means like I have no excuse as to why I'm not living my dream life. And like, that was always my safety, like, but I have anxiety, like, and it's really scary to let go of the old story, especially around money, because like that, when you let go of your old money story, there's no reason why you can't be doing all the things you want to do. But money is such an easy excuse for all of us to be like, I don't have any money.
And money is so intrinsically linked to almost everything in our lives. And I think that there's all kinds of reasons why we hold on to our money struggle. Yeah. I know for me, like, I used to hear people talking about a fear of success, and I was like, no. I'm not afraid of success. And then I had my first like $15,000 month, and I laid in bed one night, like filled with anxiety over the idea that people were going to hate me. Like if I make too much money, people are going to think that I'm a snob or that they can't relate to me anymore. I don't have a job like everybody else. Like, what am I even going to talk to people about? And it was suddenly this like intense fear of abandonment that I had to like work through, and will continue to have to as well. But there's so many different, I know like someone in Mind Magic a little while ago said, do you have a fear around people wanting your money or expecting that because you have money, people are going to, that you're going to pay for everything? Mm-hmm. So we have to look at like, what are we, what is the payoff if you're in a lot of money struggle? I know it's confronting to hear, and you're probably like, there's no part of me that wants to hold on to this, but let go of that for a second and look at what part of me, what is the payoff here? Because, you know what, actually, yeah, this was something that you coached me through, Tara, because I had a lot of debt for quite a long time, and we were working together. And I realized that with the debt, I didn't actually have to move into like a full-on adult life.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to deal with my shit around relationships and fear of rejection and opening myself up to like the possibility of meeting someone and getting married and having kids, because all those things seemed really, really scary to me. With the debt, it was like, I don't have to, those things have to come after the debt, so I'm safe with it.
100%. I had such a similar experience with my debt, and I wrote it all out, and I was like, okay, so that's actually such an important thing that we didn't talk about before. It's like, there's always a reason why we are where we are, and it's because we believe deep down, whether it's subconscious or whatever, that it's better for us, it's safer for us where we are. So there is a payoff to staying in the struggle. And for me, it was very similar. It's like, I wrote it all out. I was like, well, then I have no excuses. I have to be responsible. That means I can't, like, I had this whole story around like, well, if I have a lot of money, then I have to be responsible with it. And then I can't actually like just be frivolous and buy what I want, which is so backwards, because if I have more money, obviously I can buy what I want. So it's so good to bring those things to the surface and be like, oh my God, like I was holding myself back because of that ridiculous belief, thinking that I could no longer spend on myself when I make a whole bunch of money. It's so backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. It's like, if you're not making that much money, you're like, well, I don't really have very much money, so I'll just spend it.
Yeah. It doesn't
I don't have enough to save. That's what it is. I don't have enough to save.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So definitely.
Yeah. Like even
would be step 2, I'd say.
Even like recently, because this work never changes, whether you're trying to like just make enough money to pay your bills or you're reaching for $50,000 in a month, it's the same, like looking at what is the payoff at staying where I am. And I realized recently, like I'm sort of, and I think Tara is the same, and I don't know if you have this story or not, but I kind of like hovered around like between sort of like $12,000 and $25,000 months, anywhere between there, depending on when I was launching, whatever. Yeah. Average, like, yeah, 18K, 20K a month. And I kept talking about wanting to make more, but the reality was that subconsciously I feel, or I have felt, that if I make more, I'm really moving beyond like the middle class, you know, like not that $18,000 a month is middle class, but it's like, but I would spend it all. Mm-hmm. And then I would still have some of the same like struggles or same money worries, even though I was making more. So it's like, I got to stay in the identity of who I've always been and who everyone I know is when it comes to money. Yeah. If I'm making more. Yeah. Right. Or actually, and there's comfort in that, where it's like, if I really start making more, I'm not everyone. I'm going to like ostracize everyone that I know, or they're going to ostracize me. Yeah. Oh my God. I had the exact same fear that no one would love me and I would be, you know, and I think, I forgot what I was going to say. Lost it. That's okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same work, and looking at why are you where you are? Mm-hmm. But what is the payoff? And just be put away any part of you that's like, there is no payoff. I hate being here. I don't want to be here anymore. That was like my initial reaction to that question. But there is there always is a payoff. There is a part of you, whether it's subconscious or not, that wants to stay where you're at.
Yeah.
And it's fear-based. There might be people that support you and you don't want to have them not feel important anymore, or, you know, there's just so many different angles. But anyways,
I remember what I was saying. I was going to say that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people that are kind of more elevated in thinking than you, because it's like exactly what you just said. It's like, once I reach this next level, I don't have anything in common with like the people that I'm surrounding myself with, and I will feel very alone and not relatable, that sort of thing. So I feel like it was really helpful for me to start following like Amanda Frances, and me and Lauren talk about like 40, 50K months all day long as if it's totally normal. Whereas if I bring that up with like one of my regular friends that aren't into manifestation, they're like, what the fuck? So it's like so important with who you're talking about this stuff with, and like surrounding yourself with people that are even higher than you, because then you're not tempted to go back down to everyone's level to stay safe.
Well, and to go back to the struggle, if you're in money struggle, because that's what today is about, there is a payoff in staying, there's a big payoff in staying in money struggle, which is that you have such a good reason to not really live your life to its fullest, or even close to its fullest. Money is always a feasible reason to say no to things, or to get to complain about this. Sometimes the payoff is just like, I just like complaining about stuff. It feels good.
Yeah.
Without this, I won't have that to complain about. But there's a lot of people that are addicted to their money struggle, because it's like, without it, we as human beings love to be victims to things. And like Tara and I all the time are like, I know I'm bitching about this, but I just need to like bitch for just a second because it feels so good. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I think just recognizing it, where it's like, yeah, there's part of you that likes, there's something about struggling around money that you like.
Yeah.
If it's been
like feeling like people are taking care of you, like, oh my God, there's just so much. There's so many deep-rooted subconscious things where it's like, it's a way for me to be taken care of. If maybe you're not getting love in other ways, then people could, anyway. So, it's like when you have money, all the excuses in the world are gone. And it's like, you just have to totally own everything. You have to own all your shit.
Responsibility.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a huge one, is that with more money comes more responsibility, which is absolutely true. And that scares a lot of people.
Yeah. But you can also change those stories into thinking like, sure, more responsibility, but also more freedom and more flow and more ease and more, you know? Yeah,
you can change the story for sure. But I think we're like fearful of the things that we don't know. And if we don't know what it would be like to have more money, then there's resistance there. So the third thing that we wanted to talk about though was, like, we have to let go of the habitual fear or the incessant fear that we have of running out of money. So we didn't want today to talk about like how to go from struggle into abundance, because it's a big leap and there's work to be done to kind of like we said, you know, level up in your vibration or whatever, step by step. So what we want first is instead to get to more of a place of trust, or even just neutrality. So I had a real turning point in my money. And this was like such a big part of what allowed me to pay off all this debt and start like hitting big months pretty consistently, where I realized that every month that I have this worry of not having enough money, it always ended up working out. Where it's like, I've always, and everyone has different energetic minimums. For me, my energetic minimums were like, I've always been able to pay my bills, even if it was just, you know, the minimum on that credit card. It didn't go to collections agency.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what happened. Not everybody can say that. Some people's energetic minimums is getting like eviction notices and then the money shows up or whatever. But I think that starting to recognize and celebrate the small ways in which money shows up for you. Because if you're watching this right now, you have internet that either you've paid for or someone else has paid for you. That's something we're celebrating when it comes to money. So just telling more of an abundant story about the money that you have, even if it's $100 a month, I don't care. You can choose to tell an abundant story about any amount of money.
Yeah.
And then you can also choose that at $10,000 a month, that was not enough. Like it doesn't actually matter the amount. It's just your perspective.
It follows you everywhere, which I think is the craziest thing. Like me and Lauren have been making $4,000 a month, and we've made $25,000, $30,000 a month, and it feels the same. Like, don't you think? Like at the end of the day, almost like there's still, I don't know. That's maybe a different topic, but yeah,
it's what you're saying is like, if you have a story about $5,000 a month being not enough, or $100 a month,
it will,
like you can double what you're making. You'll still have that story. You have to change the story first and the view, because I've definitely, that's what I mean is like this month I have made more money than I ever have before, but I've made almost as much money as I made this month and still had the story that it wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this month, I'm like, wow, there's so much more than enough. It's overflow. Mm-hmm. That's not because there's more money.
That's because you started telling an overflow story. You literally did that.
Exactly.
I was going to say, yeah, it's all about, and I know this is like, we've said this so many times, but it is viewing things from the perspective of like, what is good about this, what is working, instead of from the perspective of this is horrible, this isn't working, I'm stuck. So if you're going to make $100 a month, you could choose to be like, I am so excited about this $100, or you could choose to be like, it's not enough, I'm going to be homeless. But either way, you're still in the same situation. One way is going to get you out of it into a new situation. The other way is just going to spiral you further down. So which way are you pointing with your thoughts?
Okay, so if I had been this aware like 2.5 years ago, this is what it would have looked like, because I was making some money, maybe like $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month, but I had like Toronto rent and stuff. I had a lot of debt. My car kept breaking down. I had lots of things that I couldn't pay for. I was like hitting the maximums on my credit card. What I could have done if I had this knowledge was celebrated, been like, I paid the minimums on my credit card this month, and it was 3 days late, but I still paid it.
Yeah, instead of
the banks aren't calling.
Paid it. Both.
Right. My car broke down, but I had a credit card that allowed me to get it fixed.
Yeah, and you have more. You know,
I ended up having the money needed to pay my rent again. It worked out again this month, even when it looked like it wasn't. Like I could have told that story and up-leveled out of that struggle so much faster than I did. But what I did instead was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to have enough. How am I going to pay rent? What if this doesn't? Even though I never had any evidence that that was going to happen, I always ended up having enough to pay for things.
Yeah.
Right? So starting to just tell a story with a different perspective of the same circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, decide firmly and with conviction you are no longer available for this old story. Like, this is it. It's all on you. Take it on. Take full responsibility. What was number two?
Well, I just want to add to that a little bit. It's really time that people stop being powerless in their own lives. And we get that the world we live in wants you to be powerless, wants you to be limited, programs you with that story. So it takes something to overcome it, but you are powerful as fuck. And until you claim that, like, it's a way of being that you have to start stepping into, where you're like, I'm done. This is it. I'm done with that old story. And like really step into that. Because if you've been in a place of struggle with money for a long time, if you've been in a place of struggle with money for a long time, again, it's not your fault and all that stuff that we said, but you can right now say, no more, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. And until you, and I see it all the time in people's businesses, they are disempowered about things for years and years and years and years. And it doesn't matter how many times I say, like, put the red lipstick on, like, be the boss babe. They never really commit to it. It's like, you got to kind of break out the really stubborn part of you. That's like, this is just how it's going to be because it's my life.
Yeah. And that is the true power that I feel, that I hope you guys will leave like really empowered from this video, and that you get to choose how this goes. You do not have to keep living out this old story again and again, month after month. It does not need to be that way. It doesn't matter if you've lived your entire life with no money. You can ultimately be a millionaire. Like, it does not matter. Like, just like, let's pretend you're starting again, all new. What is the new identity that you're choosing, and how can you start showing up like that?
I have an affirmation for that, which is, it's my reality and I create it.
Yeah.
It's like meant to be like, no.
Yeah.
None of that. It's my reality. I create it. This is how it's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, because the only reason we have these struggles is because of our past programming. Imagine if you were born and raised from day one, you can do anything. There's always more than enough money. Money grows on trees. It's always flowing in. Money's so easy. You can just like allow it to come into your reality. Like if you were raised with that set of programming, you would have a completely different reality. But like, of course it's harder, but you can start now and start reprogramming and start choosing a new reality.
Yeah.
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 And
Number
then,
one.
wait, so first was aside, second was, what was the second? I forget.
Oh, what are you?
Oh yeah.
What is the pay-
Yeah. Why are you,
What do you-
what's the payoff? Yeah. And then number 3 is flip the perception. How can you focus on what you have versus what you don't?
Because I promise you, if you stayed with it long enough, you could find a way to be really grateful for the fact that on your $20,000 credit card bill, you were able to pay the $200 minimum. You absolutely could. And it might take a little while to stay there or to get to that place, but you could find a place of gratitude and abundance for the fact that like, I ultimately had to shift my story about credit cards where it was like this bad, shameful thing to be like, these are just a tool. And how great is it that I'm able to like, you know, invest in things with money that I don't have. Thanks, banks, for giving me.
Credit cards are magical. Like it's a piece of plastic and buy things. Like it's actually.
Honestly, actually, when I look back, this is like, I'm having a breakthrough right now. I honestly feel like I have lived twice the life I could have because of credit cards.
Yeah, I am in full support of credit cards. Like, think of all the debt. I mean, I just think sometimes of like all the debt that I accumulated and was so stressed about, and then it's all paid off, and it's like, why did I ever worry about that? There was
never worried.
It stuck me.
I've booked so many trips. I have paid for coaches. I have made investments. And we're not saying go and just spend money on your credit card. We're just saying like, if you have credit card debt or any kind of debt, be like, this was just a tool. It's a number on a screen. It's not even real.
Reality.
That's the crazy thing about money.
Yeah.
It's not real.
I always think about that. Like literally, how much money do you actually have? I probably have $15 cash in my house. The rest is just these random numbers on a screen.
Yeah.
It blows my
And
mind.
we're like, wow. We give it
We give it way
significance.
too much significance. Yeah. Great. I'm done my wine, so I'm done.
Ding.
You obviously talked more. You have more wine left. Okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.
So I can learn how to